Gear up for Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. It's your final word on sports all across the state. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now here are your hosts, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
All three quarterbacks were up today. We rotated all three in there. We haven't gotten enough production at the position. Multiple issues on offensively, but we need to get better at that position, so we've repped all three guys.
Still trying to develop some guys as well at all three levels. I think we need to do that moving forward to continue to improve us and develop a little bit more diversity in what we're doing and a little bit more depth.
Welcome in us here on South Carolina Radio Network. A lot of things going on as you heard those voices. Will Muschamp's voice. Could there be another quarterback in the mix at USC? We'll unpack all of that and a lot more tonight on the show. Glad you're with us wherever you have us dialed in around the state. Kevin McCrary holding it down again as Phil Kornbluth off for the Jewish holiday. Tom Hayes on vacation, but you will not be disappointed in our show tonight. We have a lot of things happening, a lot of things to discuss, and a lot of big news that is actually about to break right now on the show. We're going to jump right into it. We have been tweeting about this, and if you're just tuning in, we're about to announce the 5 finalists for the South Carolina High School Mr. Football Award. This is, for those that are uninitiated, this is essentially the Heisman Trophy for high school football players in the state of South Carolina, the best of the best on the field and off. And it is our pleasure to welcome in the legendary Keith Richardson, Coach Richardson, Hall of Fame coach, on the line with us now to announce these 5 great and talented individuals. Coach, hope you're doing well.
I'm doing fine. Appreciate y'all having us on, and we're excited about the process that we've been through. It's very hard and it's very difficult for the group to make this decision and make, I guess I'm kind of apologize. It's been a long day with the high school league doing the things they're doing and us having to scramble with our North-South game. But this is a highlight of the year for us, the announcement of the finalists for Mr. Football.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. And before we get to that announcement, I know you mentioned all the other things going on and the high school football season now 2 weeks extended because of Hurricane Matthew. I know you guys are still going to be announcing the full teams on Tuesday, correct? And maybe just expanding the roster some for the North-South All-Star game, because that game will be taking place during, I guess, the semifinals now of the high school playoffs.
We're going to play our game on the originally scheduled date, December the 10th. There's just as many uncertainties as we move forward to the state championship games, and so we just feel like it's better to put our game on, hold it where it's normally scheduled. And there are a lot of good football players in this state. We know we'll lose some, but there are a lot of good ones here that are deserving to play. And, that's just the decision we've made to do.
Yeah, and that's probably the best decision you can make, is given the circumstances. Not ideal, though. You guys dealt with this last year with the state championship being pushed back a week because of the flooding, and now we lost 2 weeks because of the storm and then the aftermath of the storm, and now the Shrine Bowl will even be affected this year.
Yeah, and it's what people don't realize. They think it's just simple to say we'll play it in 2 weeks, but when you got to have buses, you got to have hotel rooms, you got meals to provide, and you've got people helping you who have blocked off a certain date to help us, and then 2 weeks later they're not available.
Right.
And so it's a lot to do, and we feel like last year we handled it real well and maybe had as good a game as we've ever had from an excitement standpoint. So we're still excited about it, and we know that schools are suffering again this year, some of them, and we understand why the decision was made, and we're going to make the best of it.
Right, and there are a lot of great players in the state to choose from. Some of them will no doubt be tied up with the playoffs, but they'll be a huge pool and a huge bed of talent for you guys to choose from, and no question it'll be a great game. All right, well, let's talk about some of those talented players around the state that have made the cut, and I'm sure this was a very tough task. I do not envy you guys for having to cut the list down to just 5 players, but let's go through the 5 finalists for South Carolina Mr. Football.
And I'm not as up to date as I should be. My notes are not out in front of me, so you're gonna have to kind of bear with me. But
Sure.
the 5 finalists, in alphabetical order: Cedric Cunningham from North Central High School.
Cedric Cunningham, okay.
From Greer High School is Noah Hanna, and that's quite a legendary family up in the Greer area. There's been a lot of good athletes with the last name of Hannon. From Broome High School is a linebacker, DeMarcus Jackson, who is probably out for the rest of the year, but a very good football player. From Northwestern High School is Gage Maloney. I think I'm pronouncing that right. If I'm not, correct me. From Northwestern High School. He's a quarterback.
Very good.
And as a receiver from Wando High School, O'Trey, is that how you pronounce it, Smith?
Or Trey Smith.
Or Trey Smith.
Yes, sir.
I apologize if they're listening.
Well, that's a great list you have there. That is.
I think it is. I think it's a good, talented list.
Yes. So let's go through it again. Cedric Cunningham, Noah Hanna, DeMarcus Jackson, Gage Mason.
No, Moloney.
Maloney. Okay, yeah, Gage Maloney. And of course, Trey Smith from down at Wando. Very good. Well, Coach, that's an excellent list. And remind everybody the next step in this process and when you're going to announce the winner.
Well, we'll announce the winner December the 10th at the North-South All-Star Game in Myrtle Beach.
Excellent. We appreciate it. That's great stuff as always. And we appreciate you getting the word out here right on Sports Talk.
Well, you got a great program, and we love to be a part of it.
Yeah, we love to have you a part of it as well. Thank you so much, Coach.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Keith Richardson joining us on the air to drop that list for us. So a very impressive list. We'll have that posted for you momentarily on the website as we give you the 5 finalists for South Carolina Mr. Football. And it has been a long day in the high school football community as they've been trying to figure out what to do and when to do it with the storms coming through. And that's been a very difficult process. They did make the decision, the right decision, probably, really maybe the best option. Not a lot of great options, but they extended the season another week. So now you're going to have games that were missed last week made up on November 4th, games that were missed this week, that will be missed this week. They'll be made up November 11th, and that'll push the start of the playoffs to November 18th. And now the state championship games will be played December 16th and 17th in Columbia over at Benedict and at Williams-Brice Stadium. And the conflict, as you heard with Coach Richardson, is going to be in the semifinals with the North-South game of Myrtle Beach. The playoffs will still be going on. And this year, and I think this is the first time in '89 where the Shrine Bowl is going to be played at the same time as the state championship games, those Saturday state championship games. Now, theoretically, well, no, you wouldn't be able to play, even if you played in that Friday night state championship game, you wouldn't be able to play in the Shrine Bowl on Saturday because they're practicing that entire week. So that is the one setback. But as Jerome Singleton said earlier today, I was watching a video of his comments, and he said, look, it's a tough deal, but there are people dealing with a lot more matters right now because of Hurricane Matthew than when we play football games and when the All-Star games are. And that is perspective that'll be needed. And as Coach Richardson said, they'll put on a great event down at Myrtle Beach. We've been a part of that for many, many years. Kornblut will be on the call, and I'll have his together, and we'll present it here on South Carolina Radio Network. And it is a phenomenal game, and it's a great opportunity for some other players that might not have been able to experience that are going to get to experience it, to head down to Myrtle Beach and get wined and dined and treated real special down there. And even some Shrine Bowl opportunities now that'll pop up that wouldn't have been there for some kids that'll get that experience. So there is a silver lining there. We'll go through the list again for you and jump into the other topics du jour as Sports Talk continues here on South Carolina Radio Network. tough task. I do not envy you guys for having to. Let's go through.
And I'm not as up to date as I should be. My notes are not out in front of me, so you're gonna have to kind of bear with me. But
Sure.
The 5 finalists, in alphabetical order: Cedric Cunningham from North Central High School.
Cedric Cunningham, okay.
From Greer High School is Noah Hanna, and that's quite a legendary family up in the Greer area. There's been a lot of. From Broome High School is a linebacker, DeMarcus Jackson, who has been injured. From Northwestern High School is Gage Maloney. I think I'm pronouncing that right. As a receiver from Wando High School, Otreri, is that how you pronounce it, Smith?
Or Trey Smith.
And that's quite a legendary family up in the Greer area. From Broome High School is a linebacker, DeMarcus Jackson. From Northwestern High School is Gage Maloney. I think I'm pronouncing that right. From Northwestern High School. As a receiver from Wando High School, Otreri, is that how you pronounce it?
Sports Talk continues here on South Carolina Radio Network. Kevin McCrary and Jared Rogers-Martin behind the glass. Just the two of us holding it down tonight. Bill Kornblut will be back tomorrow. Tom Hayes off the rest of the week, enjoying some much-needed vacation. We just released the 5 finalists for the South Carolina High School Mr. Football Award. If you missed that, I will recap them quickly again for you. And the winner will be announced at halftime of the North-South All-Star Game. Your 5 finalists for North Central: Cedric Cunningham, Greer's Noah Hannon, DeMarcus Jackson from Broome, Gage Maloney out of Northwestern High School, and Wando's or Trey Smith. Those are your 5 finalists for South Carolina Mr. Football. 800-956-7266 is the toll-free number. If you want to reach out and grab a line, feel free to do so. We can handle that for you now. Coming up momentarily at the bottom of the hour, we'll have our M&M boys. Corey Miller will be joining us. Will Merritt will be joining us, and we'll see how much back and forth we get with those guys. I feel like I'm on one of those cable news panels sometimes with those two going back and forth with a Trump surrogate and a Hillary Clinton surrogate and Don Lemon, and everybody just yells at each other.
Fellas, please. Fellas,
Yes,
please.
yes.
Fellas,
So
please.
I think we're going to have to leave it there. But no, that's always entertaining to see what those two have to say. And we will do that. We have recruiting coming up as well. Dabo Swinney is off the practice field. We will hopefully get some of his fresh comments for you coming up as well. The final word from Dabo Swinney before the Tigers take on NC State Saturday. And Perry Orth, he talked yesterday to reporters. Now, there isn't a game for USC this week, but there could be some news coming out of Gamecock country. According to a report on the Big Spur, Jake Bentley, true freshman who enrolled early, he could get a strong look at the quarterback job this week. This according to Tony Morrell and Will Muschamp on his call today on the SEC conference call, said that he's repping 3 quarterbacks: Bentley, Orth, McElwain. Not in that order necessarily. He didn't say that. In fact, let me play the comments. He didn't have a lot to say today, but here is a portion of what Will Muschamp had to say at the SEC teleconference this afternoon.
Yeah, we're in the open week. Had a good day yesterday and a good day this morning. Practice again tomorrow, and then we'll get back on Sunday and practice for UMass for next week.
Hey, where has Jake Bentley been repping this week? Is he with the first team?
No, but all 3 quarterbacks rep today, and we rotated all 3 in there. We haven't gotten enough production at the position. Multiple issues offensively, but we need to get better at that position, so we've repped all 3 guys.
And also, with this being the bye week, have you guys named your permanent team captains for this year yet?
No, that won't be done till the season is over.
Tired of questions from previous stops, but I'm wondering, even in as busy as you are, have you kind of looked at what Auburn's defense has done and how some of those guys have come into their own, and do you have a take on how they've done it all?
No, I mean, they're playing extremely well. I think, the defensive line has been dominating, and certainly, Dontavius playing his first year last year and coming into his second year, and Montravius Adams has played really well, and Byron Coward. I mean, they've got a bunch of good players up front. Marlon Davidson is a very mature freshman, which we felt like that when we were recruiting him, that he was going to be a guy that could step in and play. And, having really the entire secondary other than Blake Countess back, they've got really good cover corners. And Javaris Davis, we signed out of Jacksonville, and Carlton Davis is out of Miami that played outstanding for us as a freshman. And, Kevin and his staff have done a great job.
All right, Will Muschamp, not sure how we got that Auburn question in there. Thought we'd taken that out, but hey, get his take on Auburn, and you can do with that what you want. The relevant stuff, he doesn't tell you much when he's talking about his quarterbacks. We didn't know that Perry Orth was going to be the starter until they walked out on the field for the first series against Georgia. Same in the Vanderbilt game. Really, the only game we didn't even know before the East Carolina game. He didn't make that announcement. We just put 2 and 2 together, and so it was. So now the question is, if you're South Carolina, is it worth it at this point in the season? Can Jake Bentley make enough of a difference where it is worth it for him to play 6 games into the season? Halfway into the season, do you want to lose his redshirt year? That's a big question, and none of us are really in a position to intelligently answer that because we're not watching practices. And if he's out there lighting it up at practice, then by all means, put him out there. If he is your best quarterback right now, and he can help you win games that the other 2 can't, put him out there. And that's what I said Saturday, if he can make a difference. Now, maybe it's one of those deals where you just want to get him out there and get him that experience, and that's worth losing an entire season for half a season where it looks like you're not even going to make a bowl game. I don't know what the thinking and the thought process would be there. We'll find out eventually if it happens, and Will Muschamp can explain that thought process. If he can go out there and change this season and win some games for you, I'd say put him out there. But the risk about playing him now, if he's not ready, he goes out there and he struggles, and you got to think a guy that is a true freshman, and he wasn't a guy that enrolled early. Remember, McElwain was around for spring practice. He played in the spring game. So he's been in this system longer, a few months longer. and went through practices that Bentley didn't get to go through. Now, we haven't seen a lot of practices at South Carolina. They haven't had many open practices. In fact, the public, if you went to any of them, you've seen as many as me. I will say in the practices that I did attend, Jake Bentley looked good. He was throwing the ball well, and can make a case that he threw the ball as well as any of the other quarterbacks out there in that small sample size. I don't know how much work he's been getting with the ones during the past 6 weeks. Apparently, he has not been running with the scout team, per the Big Spur story, that he has still been getting a few first-team reps from time to time. And I think a couple of the players yesterday said that. He hasn't been getting a lot, but they have been giving him some reps with the first team and trying to get him game ready just in case. And maybe they're going to go ahead and break the seal on the Jake Bentley era and see what happens. But yeah, if he goes out there and he struggles and you have to pull him back out and you go back to Orth the rest of the way, you're going, darn, we used this guy's redshirt year and he wasn't ready. And now we only have him for 3 years and we're still back to where we were. That's not going to be good. Now, he might lose every game, but you see how good he is and he gets that experience that he needs and he's ready to start day one next year. But do you give up on Brandon McElwain that fast? Is that already it? Now, one thing Muschamp did say about Bentley is, unlike McElwain, who's been really good running but hasn't been much of a passer, and unlike Orth, who's a good passer but not much of a runner, Bentley can do both. He can run and pass.
Well, what's your best case scenario? Like, the best case scenario with Bentley coming in now is it's not a bowl season. I mean, you've really got only two wins left on the season. Maybe you can't get to 6. What's your best case scenario? And I just don't see it with Bentley. It's just a burning a red shirt and a lot of negative that doesn't get justified.
Well, if you want to look beyond just the wins and losses and say, okay, they still only get to 4 wins this year, or yeah, okay, you get to 4 wins, but Bentley plays and he leads them to those wins over UMass and Western Carolina. They lose the other ones, but he plays well and the offense starts moving a little bit and they get a little confidence going. And towards the end of the year, they're playing much better than they were at the beginning, because that's where you are if you're South Carolina right now. You want them to be better in November than they were when they opened the season. And the offense to this point hasn't really shown that. Now, I think there's a lot of reasons that we can point to why that aren't as simple as, oh, well, it's Will Muschamp. He struggled at Florida. He's struggling at South Carolina. That's not the reason why. They've had injuries. They have a lot of first and second year guys they're breaking in. They're going through the lumps that you would expect the team to go through. But can Jake Bentley go out there and fix those things now? I don't know. We'll find out. The M&M boys are coming up next. I'm sure they'll have an opinion on it. You might as well. 800-956-7266. Reach out, grab a line. Sports Talk continues here on a Wednesday evening in the Palmetto State. Glad you're with us.
The big guys are up next. Corey Miller and Will. The big guys are up next. Corey Miller and Will Merritt. It's the M&M Boys. This is Sports Talk.
We will get to your phone calls momentarily, but want to welcome in on the guest lines our favorite two former football stars, the M&M Boys. Will Merritt, former Clemson offensive lineman. Corey Miller, former USC linebacker and NFL player, joining us once again. Gentlemen, I hope this day finds you both doing well.
Doing great, guys.
Doing good, guys.
Doing good.
Yeah,
beautiful day here in Columbia.
Very good. All right. Well, Corey, let's start with you. I just want to jump into the big news of the day. Some things starting to percolate out there that perhaps Will Muschamp is going to try a third quarterback out when the Gamecocks get back on the field, and that they could pull that red shirt off of Jake Bentley and give him a shot. Do you think this is a good decision if that's what in fact happens?
I would hold him. I mean, me personally, if I was coaching this team, I would not waste quarterback. I like practice. I'm a big guy, 6'4", 225, 230, smart, very high football IQ. But right now you're 2-4. You need 4 wins to get to a bowl game. I just don't foresee that happening. And I wouldn't waste it. I definitely would not waste it. I would go with Perry Orth and sprinkle in those packages with Brandon McElwain, and then, get to the spring and let McElwain and Bentley go at it and have a competition. But to play him now, to me, wouldn't make much sense because I don't think he's going to be a difference maker, honestly. He don't have the weapons. I mean, can't run the football consistently. You don't throw it consistently. And I don't know why half the year you want to waste a red shirt. I don't think that's a good move in my opinion.
Will, put on your Will Muschamp hat. What say you?
Yeah, I can see both sides of this equation. I kind of get the sense that Will Muschamp is the type of coach, and this is coming from some other guys that have coached with him and played for him that I have spoken to in the past. I kind of get the sense that it doesn't really matter when and where he is record-wise during the season. If he can go out there and find a way to win a game, I don't think he really cares. I think he's just going to go put the absolute best 11 on the field. And if that means that Bentley's going to be a guy that can come in and spark him for the rest of the year, if he sees something in him, that he likes. I kind of get the sense that Will Muschamp is a win-at-all-cost type guy when it comes to personnel. So I can see that type of equation playing out. But I do tend to lean a little bit more towards what Corey's saying. Had you done this in week 1, week 2, week 3, it makes a whole lot more sense than doing it, after 6 games going into the 7th week of the season.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I do question a little bit of the timing of it. Had it been earlier in the year, we probably don't have this discussion. It's probably just saying, hey, we got to put the best guys on the field. Week 7, yeah, it does kind of make you raise one eyebrow and wonder about the timing of pulling that red shirt off of him.
And we got to remember, too, with Bentley, and unlike Deshaun Watson and even Brandon McIlwain, those guys were on campus during the spring. They were early enrollees. Bentley, he didn't roll in until August, so he doesn't even have spring practice underneath him. So, look, we're not out there every day. I know, Corey, you're around the program and close to a lot of guys over there, but it's hard to see him changing the season for the Gamecocks.
Yeah, and I think it's really just a little scuttlebutt, K-Mac. I think, the bye week, by saying, hey, all 3 guys are getting reps. And I kind of think, Bentley's been getting a little bit of the reps too, even though he's not playing on Saturday with the first group. He's started getting the calls. So he's been a part of that already. And, being a coach's kid, his dad coaching the running back. So, I mean, I think he's been heavily involved in the play calling and all that. But my point is I thought this team could win 4 out of the next to get to a bowl game, and it was strictly the trigger man that you needed back there that was going to make that big difference. I would say, yes, go for it. But the fact is, you don't have playmakers. You can't run the football consistently. You score 14 points. I don't care if you put Brett Favre back there at quarterback. You can't beat, folk one-on-one running routes, and you can't run the football consistently. You're not going to score points.
Will, Clemson didn't have any letdown, any hangover, any issues at Boston College Friday night. And sometimes those Friday night games, those midweek games against lesser opponents can sneak up on you coming off a big win, but they're just dialed in. Clemson is just always seems to answer the bell, and this is complete a flip of the script from what happened, I guess, early in Dabo's tenure and then back to the Tommy Bowden era, where they would lose to somebody they weren't supposed to lose to almost every year, and that's where the term Clemsoning came into play. But now they handle their business against these teams that they're supposed to beat.
Yeah, I think you can probably bottle that term up and flush it down the toilet based off of what they've done over the last few years. I think that's a term that probably does not apply anymore.
Right.
This is one of the longest road winning streaks in the country that Clemson has, and obviously 19 at home, and I believe it'll be 20 at home this weekend. I said it last week on you guys' show, and I'll say it again this week, and I think you got to just understand how simple this term is, but how applicable it is to Clemson right now. If they play their football and don't worry about who they're playing, I don't know anybody that's going to beat them. I mean, yeah, there might be some as talented teams out there that will give them a run for the money, and it'll be great, and turnovers are always a factor, and injuries are always a factor, and those type of things that you don't know. But I have not seen this team in the last few years play up or down to their competition, and I think it's something they stress all the time. We play our brand of football, we play our game, and if we do that, we're more talented than the other team. And I told you guys last week on the show that I didn't think it was going to be a close game. I thought it might be close early on, and it was before they came out of the locker room. It was very close before they came out of the locker room.
Yeah.
But I didn't think it was going to be a close game because I thought that number one defensive ranking in the country was very skewed based off of who Boston College had played. They had not seen a team that could throw out 7 weapons at one time on any given play. And I say that because there's a lot of times that they do some misdirection type things, and they put guys in very vulnerable positions. And so at any one play, they got 5 eligible guys going down the field, and they got backs in the backfield, and sometimes they run that unbalanced offensive line and things of that nature. So I'm telling you guys, I think that Boston College was not prepared for the type of skill, speed, and talent that Clemson's going to throw out there offensively. And I really thought, guys, after a short week, an emotional win, for Dabo to get his troops ready to go up to Boston, travel on a short week, get up there, play in an environment that's really been difficult over the years, and then to win by 46 points, guys, that's a pretty impressive showing.
Corey, even you had to be pretty impressed with that one.
I think it was a great win. It was a great win. Again, I thought the fact that, when you have an emotional win like that, it's hard to get up for that next game. But, again, Boston College, I'm with Will. I never bought into that number one total defense and all that stuff. And, they hadn't played anybody. So, again, stats, Bill Parcells would allude to for losers if you get caught up in all that all the time. And we knew Boston College was not that type of defense. But again, they played well. Deshaun Watson played well. I think he's played himself now back in that conversation. If you listen to the pundits of Heisman, he was pretty flawless in that ball game. But then, now you got to get ready for the next one. So, that Clemson hasn't been existent the last couple of years. And Dabo and that coach staff have done a great job of getting them ready to play. They got great talent. I'm not going to say they got the best talent. I think there's a couple schools out there, Will, that will probably argue that point with you. But this is a team that's going to be right there. If they can just hang on, they'll have a chance to get back to the college football playoffs.
Well, and the only reason I say that, too, is because those schools that you're talking about are typically the teams that Clemson has beaten in the past couple of years, the LSUs, the Oklahomas, the Ohio States, and going one series, one drive away from beating Alabama. The schools that you would refer to as far as being as talented or more talented, Clemson's gone toe-to-toe with them and won the ball games. And so that's the point that I'm making. I'm not saying that there's not teams out there that don't have as much talent, but I do believe that, a lot of people would say, oh, well, wait till you play LSU or wait till you play, Ohio State or wait till you play Oklahoma's or wait till you do this. And they did, and they won the ball games. And so that's what I'm saying. The teams that you would typically put on that list, Clemson showed up and won the games.
Gentlemen, hang tight. We're going to hit a break. We'll pick this back up on the other side as we continue with the M&M boys here on Sports Talk.
We're going to vote on it tomorrow. Told them to think about it tonight. We'd have a meeting in the morning. And now, that's one thing I have not given any thought to this year.
But you get the sense with the bye week coming up that the players have a little bit of a sense of relief. They can see light at the end of the tunnel. I think you had to play, 10 or 11 straight games last season?
Yeah. 10 straight. 10 straight counting the championship game. And, 10 straight. 10 straight counting the championship game. And it was a grind. It really was. With the team last year.
A sense of relief. They can see light at the end of the tunnel. I think you had to play 10 or 11 straight games last season?
Yeah. 10 straight.
But you get the sense with the bye week coming up that the players have a little bit of a sense of relief. They can see light at the end of the tunnel. I think you had to play 10 or 11 straight games last season?
10 straight. 10 straight counting the championship of our depth. And we're built differently this year for sure.
A few more minutes with the M&M boys and then recruiting Kornblut, enjoying the Jewish holiday, but recruiting knows no holiday. So that is coming up. But first, more with the M&M boys. Will Merritt and Corey Miller on the line with us now here on Sports Talk. And guys, we're at the halfway point of the season, and it's kind of good news, bad news when you talk about USC and Clemson, because I think that USC has probably played its easier games in the first 6 games, and I think Clemson, and Florida, they played Auburn on the road. They've already knocked Louisville off. Believe it or not, I thought that Friday night game at Boston College, it didn't end up being that way, but could be a little tricky. They've knocked off a few of their hard games, most all of them.
Well, I think if anybody looked at the season before it started and you were, starting to highlight a couple of games that you were probably worried about, obviously you start off with Auburn. You're definitely worried about an opener, and you don't know what you're going to get out of there. A lot of mistakes typically in game one. And then, of course, Louisville, we know how good they are. I think they were the best teams in the country. And then you start Florida State, going on the road at Florida State. So I think that's the next big hurdle for them to get over. But the Georgia Tech and Boston College games historically have been just very difficult games for Clemson to be able to play their best football. And that goes all the way back to, when I was playing them. Those were tough games, and you just knew you were in for dogfights. And so getting through those games that history says are going to be difficult and beating the teams like Louisville and Auburn, then I think that you're exactly right. I think that they have taken 2 big, giant leaps forward. Now, if they can go on the road to Tallahassee and find a way to get a win down there at Doak Campbell, then I think that Clemson's probably going to set their sights on being back in the college football playoff. But that's always a tough game. We know how talented they are. They haven't played their best football yet. Typically, Florida State is a second-half season type team. They play great football in the second half of the season, so it'll still be a huge, monumental challenge to be able to go down there and win. But I would typically agree with exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, and Corey, the Gamecocks, they had, in terms of their SEC games, they've crossed Vandy off and Kentucky, Mississippi State. They get a little tougher when you talk about Florida and Tennessee. They still have to play Clemson at Clemson. So it could get worse before it gets better.
Yeah, it's to me it's about the same. K-Mac, Missouri, who knows what you're going to get. They got UMass, Western Carolina. So 3 out of the 6 games are definitely going to be tough with Clemson, Florida, and the other one I'm drawing a blank here. But again, nobody's expecting nothing from South Carolina this year. I'm not, at least. I mean, it's not going to be a bowl team. You want to see them get better each and every week. You want to see the young talent develop more. And that's what you're going to get. I mean, it's a team that the next 2 or 3 years may get back into that SEC East conversation. But this is, to me, a pass year for Muschamp. You got to continue to recruit and that type of thing. So that's where South Carolina is. That's just the reality of it. You got to give coaches 3 years. You can't give them, the first year with no talent. You can't do too much. So I'm looking to see next year, the 3rd year, what Muschamp has. Let me just say real quickly, okay, Matt, as far as Clemson is concerned, we knew they had a 3-game season. It was Auburn, and Auburn's not as good as they've been in the past. Louisville, we didn't really know how well they were going to be. We knew they were good and solid until we saw them blast Florida State, and then everybody went crazy, which they're a great football team. And then it's on the road in Tallahassee. That's their season. And they have, as we'll say, with the talent that they have, they got to win 3 games. And if they don't lose the games that they're supposed to win, they're going to be back every year in that conversation, because that's just the way their schedule is set up. So I'm not shocked. If they win against Florida State, I don't see anybody in the Coastal beating them. I think they walk into the college football playoffs.
Walk into the college football playoffs, Will. You're going to walk in there.
Yeah,
let's be real. Auburn's not that good. Auburn's a solid team.
They are ranked this week. They are ranked this week.
Yeah, you had a good win last week over at Mississippi State. They made some changes. Malzahn stopped calling plays, but it's a team that's, that's trying to find this way. They're not a football team. Let's not trick ourselves. They're solid, but they're not a great football team. Florida State, not a great football team this year. They get blasted by Louisville, long lead against Ole Miss, and Ole Miss is a good football team. But, these are not the typical teams that we've seen. Georgia Tech was terrible. Boston College was terrible. NC State, we think, might be okay, but they win a game against Notre Dame in a monsoon. So we just don't know, and I think Clemson's not going to be really tested again until they get to the college football playoffs.
Hey, Corey, have you ever heard of a band called the Spin Doctors? Because I feel like that you really probably ought to be like a
no. That's called facts. That's called facts. I mean, that's not spinning. That's
called facts.
Auburn is not the same team. Auburn's 4-2.
The ACC goes outside of the conference. Look at what they've done against SEC opponents in recent history. So you can't really just make these blanketed statements about this.
That's not. That's a real statement. It's not. I mean, you guys, you want to make a statement because you've been terrible for the last 8-10 years of your conference. I mean, it's what if you get a win down, that's fine. You can harp on it, but the reality is Auburn is an okay team.
So then how do you explain then when you go outside the conference and you start playing these SEC teams that everybody wants to pound their chest about, and Clemson continues to knock them off one after another?
Except for one, you're not knocking off. The one that's got that trophy down in Tuscaloosa. So you're not knocking all of them off. I mean, you're not knocking all of them off. And if you want to be real, the last decade, South Carolina still won, 7 out of 10? I mean, 7 out of 11, whatever it is. So, I mean, we want to play that game. I'm just saying.
Yeah, and Clemson's got more wins against South Carolina than any school in the country at 6.
Right, and great. I mean, but you're talking about years before they even segregation, right? I mean, you want to count those wins?
Oh, I would love for you to be a history major for a minute.
I mean, you want to count those wins before you and I were even born? I mean, before Blash could even go to the University of South Carolina, count them. I mean, great.
Okay, well, how many of those?
But the last 20, 25 years, if you go back and look at the numbers, I would say they're about pretty equal. I bet the last 25 years, they're probably pretty equal.
How many wins did you play in the last 10 years, Corey?
What's that?
How many of those games did you play in those last 7 wins? So if we're
I didn't play any of them.
Let's talk history. Okay, so
I didn't play any of them.
Let's talk current. I mean, you can't speak out of both sides of your mouth. Either talk history or talk current.
You're the one that went back and said we got more wins over the last. You went there. You went there. Let's deal with the facts. Deal with the facts. Let's deal with the fact. You guys were a close second. You were a close second place last year, so congratulations. You get a participation trophy.
Listen, hey, next time before we talk, get your media guide out if you want to go historical. We'll do that. Or get last year out if you want to, or let's go this year. I don't care, but you can't have your.
Did they not have South Carolina not won 7 out of 11? 7 out of 10 came out?
But they won 5 in a row, and it's somewhere around there. I haven't looked it up. I'll have to pull my media guy out.
I promise you, it's right there. It's right there. So
okay. All right. Well, here we go. Clemson's won 2-1 over you in the history of the program. How about that?
There you go. Great. They won it.
All
Congratulations.
Right. I'm gonna have to step it, guys. We're up against it.
What does that have to do with the price of doing
what I have to do is, boy, you're pounding your chest about beating Boston College and Georgia Tech. Congratulations. Well, I'm just saying, I'm giving you your trophy.
I haven't pounded my chest yet. I haven't.
You said they were the most talented team in the country.
It was a win that they were supposed to win, and they won.
You said they were the most talented team in the country.
What you can do is take your logic and just shut the hell up because it doesn't make any sense.
All right.
The trophy, that number 16 is in Alabama, buddy. When you get there, holler at them.
Oh, boy. Well, that was something. We appreciate it, guys. We have to leave it there because we're out of time. Unfortunately, we're at the top of the hour. I've never been more disappointed to see it come. We appreciate it. You guys never disappoint. We'll pick this up again next week. How about that?
All right, sounds good, buddy. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Will. We appreciate it. Always good stuff from those two. The garnet and orange blood, it runs deep. Good stuff from both of them. Okay, well, we got recruiting coming up. I couldn't stop. I didn't even know where to cut those guys off when they were going back and forth like that. Good stuff from them. I told you, it's like being on one of those CNN panels where everybody's yelling. I love it. We'll be back. More sports talk, more recruiting. Dabo Swinney off the practice field. His final comments before the NC State game on Saturday. We have that coming up in hour number 2 as well. Stick around. Sports Talk continues.
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornblut, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
Hour number 2 of Sports Talk here on South Carolina Radio Network. Kevin McCrary holding it down once again. No Phil Kornblut, no Tom Hayes. Korn will be back tomorrow. Tom will be back next week. Jared Rogers-Martin behind the glass. We do have some time for your phone calls this hour. We were jam-packed in hour number 1. First of all, we announced the 5 finalists for South Carolina Mr. Football. Cedric Cunningham from North Central, Noah Hannon from Greer, DeMarco Jackson from Broome, Gage Maloney out of Northwestern, and Ortre Smith from Wando are your 5 finalists. That was right out of the gate in our last hour. We had the M&M boys. You heard a little bit from Will Muschamp as the scuttlebutt and the talk over whether Jake Bentley will get a look at some point before the season ends or whether he will redshirt. That's a hot topic that Gamecock fans are discussing during the bye week. By the way, a very unscientific scientific poll on Twitter. Everybody cites online polls now. Like they're hot, but doesn't mean they're not fun. I put one up on my Twitter feed today. It looks like it's about 500 votes here on if it's a good idea for USC to play Jake Bentley at quarterback after the bye week. Yes or no? Yes, the offense needs help. No, can't burn his red shirt. The no's are ahead right now, 56% to 44%. So take that for what it's worth. Corey Miller didn't think it was a good idea. You're a no?
I'm a no.
I'm a no, too. Unless he's going to change this season, unless something is going to happen with him to go out and change this season, hold him, even if he is ready. I'm not saying he can't go out there and play on the same level as Perry Orth or Brandon McElwain, but why at this point? Unless you think that experience, how valuable is 6 games experience? Is it more valuable than having him for 4 years after this year? That's the question that South Carolina has to ask itself. That's really the big question. South Carolina is not going to win the East. They're not going to a great bowl game this year. So it's all about building for the future. So is the experience of playing 6 games bigger than a red shirt? That is the question. All right, let's jump into recruiting. We didn't get to it in hour number 1 because Corey Miller and Will Merritt were just yelling at each other. And it was highly entertaining, to say the least. Highly entertaining. But we do have some recruiting to pass along for you. We'll begin with offensive lineman TJ Morris-Charlotte. We know he decommitted from USC Sunday afternoon, but he said to last night the Gamecocks are still a factor into his thinking, and they've never stopped recruiting him. More committed to the Gamecocks in early August after delaying his decision several times over the summer while waiting for an offer from Alabama, which still hasn't come. Moore said he never felt totally solid with his commitment and decided to reopen things so he could check out other options. He plans to visit Tennessee unofficially this Saturday for the Alabama game. He's considering official visits with USC, Virginia Tech, Louisville, and Tennessee. He said the process has gotten kind of crazy, and that's why he committed so fast and why he was in a hurry to get it over with. But it's a big decision, so he's going to open things back up, see how it plays out. He says he does not have a favorite. Athlete Tansy Richardson of South Aiken plans to be at Georgia for the Vanderbilt game Saturday. He set an official with Maryland. And former USC baseball commit Brady Scott committed to Florida State for football. He's an offensive lineman. 2020 tight end Jacoby Kawan of Providence Day visited USC for the Georgia game. Per Clemson 247, 2019 offensive lineman Keandre Jones of Hogansville, Georgia, will visit Clemson Saturday, along with his teammate, 2020 wide receiver Michael Robertson Jr. Jones is considered one of the top offensive linemen nationally in his class. And a basketball note, a few basketball notes actually. 6'4" Clyde Trapp Jr. of Lower Richland has taken an official visit to Rice. He was scheduled to visit Georgia last weekend until Hurricane Matthew forced him to change his plans. That visit has not been rescheduled, but Trapp has set up 3 more officials. He's going to Missouri October 21st, USC October 27th, and Charlotte November 4th. He's undecided on a 5th. Frank Martin offered Trapp late last month and has kept his recruiting efforts going with him. He does not have a favorite at this point, and he's planning to sign in November. Clemson has offered 2018 6'8" Bryce Golden of Hagerstown, Maryland. Furman landed a commitment from 6'7" Noah Gurley out of Fayetteville, Georgia. And 2020 guard Carson McCorkle of Raleigh is expected to visit Clemson Saturday. There you go. Hey, want to mention this. The folks at Touchstone Energy Cooperative know that many people have had their lives disrupted across the state. And if you're one of those people who have had your power knocked out by the storm, they want you to know that their repair crews are hard at work to restore service to every one of their co-op members. They want to thank you for supporting their crews during this difficult time, and they appreciate your patience. They're going to have your lights on as soon as possible. And this message was brought to you by your local Touchstone Energy Cooperative. 800-956-7266 is the toll-free number if you want to reach out and grab a line. We have a surprise. This is actually a call for me. Okay, let's go out to the phones. It's supposed to be a surprise. Hello.
Hey, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, I'm just checking.
Okay, good stuff. Thank you, Jared. You're doing a hell of a job screening the calls back there. Good stuff. 800-956-7266. Oh, bro. Jared has not been here long enough to know that you never put Reggie Anderson on the air. You just don't do it. You got to know better. You got to make him tricky, don't just on the air. Goodness gracious. I mean, WLTX has made that mistake longer than any of us will ever understand. But the fair is in town, and Reggie will be at the fair. If you want to meet him, he'll be in one of those booths where you have to see the freakiest guy at the fair. He's back there. He won't be there with the LTX people signing headshots. No, he'll be back in one of those booths scaring the kids. You go back there and you pay $5 and you see the scariest thing ever. That's what you get with Reggie Anderson at the fair every year. All right. We got recruiting out of the way. If you want more recruiting, by the way, check it out on the website, SportsTalkSC.com. Plenty of recruiting notes there. You can also follow the hashtag on Twitter, #ST Recruiting. Hashtag ST Recruiting. The ST stands for Sports Talk Recruiting. That's how you remember it. If you put that in, all of the recruiting notes will be there. All the things that we track down, even during the Jewish holidays. Kornblut is doing recruiting. Now that is either great dedication to recruiting or poor dedication to your faith. I'll let somebody else make that decision. I'm in no position to do it, but I'm sure that Korn will get right. I don't know. What are you doing, Yom Kippur? Is that the one when it's the new year, or you have to forgive yourself for all the sins of the year before, or is that Yom Kippur?
You know, the first question I get whenever I go on a date is, "Are you Jewish?" And I'm not, and I have no idea. But everyone thinks I am, and I have no answer to your question.
Have no answer either. I should have an answer. I've asked Kornblut this before. I always mix up the two, but nonetheless, Korn will be back tomorrow, and he can answer that question for us. Dabo Sweeney's coming up on the other side of the break. Dabo breaking down NC State one final time before the Tigers take on the Wolfpack in the Textile Bowl Saturday. Also, he was asked a few other questions, his thoughts on an early signing period, among other things. So we'll have that coming up for you on the other side of the break and see what is on Dabo's mind. You never know what's going to be on Dabo's mind. Clemson, by the way, is a 17-point favorite this weekend. 17-point favorite. So they're in pretty good shape. Now, the national championship odds are out, and Clemson's odds have gotten a little bit better, actually quite a bit better. They were 7-2 odds on October 3rd. Now they are 17-4 odds to win the national championship. The only teams that have better odds, surprise, surprise, Alabama. They're at 5-2 odds. And Ohio State is 13-4 odds. Washington's 7-1. Washington, 7-1. Louisville's still in there. They're 10-1 odds. Michigan, 10-1. Texas A&M, 18-1 odds. Tennessee, even after a loss against Texas A&M, the Vols, 33-1 odds. Take that for what it's worth. Entertainment purposes only.
we 10 straight.
A quick high school football report by Farm Bureau Insurance. With new auto insurance rates from Farm Bureau Insurance, you could be saving a whole lot of money. Even if you've received a quote before, rates are now more competitive than ever. Get a free quote today from your local Farm Bureau Insurance agent. And if you missed this, if you love high school football, the good news is you're going to get 2 extra weeks. The bad news is we lost pretty much an entire week last week because of Hurricane Matthew. There were a handful of games that went off on Thursday and Friday, more than a handful. And this week there's going to be more cancellations because of the aftermath and the flooding and other people that are still dealing with Hurricane Matthew. So we have 2 extra weeks of the regular season to get everything in. The games missed last week will be made up November 4th. The games missed this week will be played November 11th. The state championship games will be played December 16th and 17th in Columbia. And with the playoffs being pushed back, the semifinals will occur the same day as the North-South All-Star game in Myrtle Beach. And that weekend of champions will be the same day as the Shrine Bowl. And the All-Star teams will have to adjust their rosters, make them a little bigger to handle the players they could lose that are still actually participating in the postseason. But both those games will go off on their regularly scheduled dates. Okay. Let's listen in on what Dabo Sweeney had to say following the Tigers practice today. His first comments talking about the bye week right around the corner. Clemson gets a bye week. They've been going at it for 6 straight weeks now, and the light at the end of the tunnel with the bye on its way.
10 straight counting the championship game, and it was a grind. It really was. I mean, I was proud of that team last year because we were low on fuel, but had just enough to get to our destiny. But we were low, that's for sure, because it was a long grind, and we were top heavy on defense as far as just the separation of we're built differently this year for sure. And then the break, it's coming at a good time. But nobody wants to go to an open day with a loss. So for us, it's about, I think in the back of their mind, they know that, hey, man, we're where we want to be, and it's homecoming, and we're playing. This game's got a lot of juice to it, man. I mean, we got 2 undefeated teams, but again, only one team's going to control their destiny after Saturday, and those 2 teams right now both do, but they got to play each other. So it's a great opportunity, and they understand that. But I think, there's no question they know that, hey, we got a chance. Let's empty our tank this week. Let's just let it all go and don't leave anything in there, and we'll fuel back up over the next couple of weeks and get ready for a strong finish. But they definitely, I think, are looking forward to the break, and I am too. I think everybody, you get going in July as coaches, and it's like you look up and you just get such a rhythm, and it's just hard to believe that we're going into game 7 already. So it goes fast, it really does. But it is nice when you get that break to be able to get a head start on the next opponent, to get guys healthy, to kind of revisit some things, to really dive in and do some really good self-scout. Not that you don't do it every week, but you can just really kind of take a look at each other, cross over, and spend a little more time doing that, helping each other. So we'll do a little more of that type of stuff next week. It's in just trying to play our best game this week. That's all we're focused on.
Is Mike going to play Saturday?
I expect him to play. Yeah.
Is Renfro still progressing to play today?
Yeah, I think Renfro hopefully will get some time this week. Expect both those guys to play.
Since we're talking about injuries, how about Jalen Williams? Any chance he'll play?
Yeah, I expect him to play. Yep, I think he'll play as well. I think Austin, all those guys should play this week.
Considering the physical nature of college football, is this as healthy as you could ask to be at this point in the season?
I guess so. I mean, for the most part, I would think so. We've been very fortunate, but those things are, y'all know you're a rolled ankle away from impacting your team one way or another. But yeah, we've been fortunate. I think our training staff deserves a lot of credit for that. Our strength coaches, the way we condition our guys, and then I think the way we practice. I think these guys have really learned how to practice against each other. But yeah, we've been very fortunate. You got to have a little bit of luck like that to have a special season. There's no doubt about it.
When looking at the numbers, I don't know what it is, but coming into this game, this will be his third. Deshaun's got over 700 total yards and 10 touchdowns against NC State. What is it that they do that allows him to be so successful? I know he's successful against a lot of people, but those numbers are pretty mind-blowing.
Yeah, for whatever reason, he's just played well, and he's got good players around him. You got to give a lot of credit to the offensive line. You got to give credit to the backs. If you dive into that, you probably had some receivers make some big plays and things like that. But he's got that type of potential in him each and every week. But I think that you look at last year, we had some explosive plays. We had some one-on-one matchups, and we won the matchup. That's what this game comes down to. At the end of the day, it comes down to matchups and execution and confidence. And the confidence comes from paying the price, putting the work in, the preparation. That's really nothing more than that. He's prepares with purpose. He's a tremendous guy on and off the field, and again, he's got good people around him. So, but hopefully we can continue to play well. I'm not really worried about the yards and all that type of stuff. I just want to see us, play well, make the plays that are there.
What is your post-break schedule for these guys once they release Saturday?
Well, they'll be off on Sunday, and we'll come back in here and practice. We'll have practice Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. And Tuesday we will meet and have community service day. I think we're going to Greenville this year for community service. So then they'll have the weekend off. They'll have Friday, Saturday. Come back, about to get back on Sunday, and then we'll have a normal week for preparation. So it's good. It's good for everybody to have that little break. But that'll be their schedule.
Coach, last week the NCAA announced that in April they're going to vote on 2 early signing periods for recruiting. How much of a benefit could that be in the recruiting process for you?
I've always been for an early signing period. I've been on. I can sit here and state the case all day. Be glad to do that on the reasons why. I don't really like the what they came out with the dates. To me, there should be a. I don't think June is the right time. I think August 1 would be better, or December, tied into the JUCO. One of those days, either August or December, to me, makes most sense. June doesn't make any sense to me. I don't understand that, but I think it's good. I think again, guys that know what they want to do will sign, and some of the rhetoric out there is it's going to speed up the recruiting process, and the actuality is it's going to slow it down. It's going to slow it down big time.
So Dabo Sweeney is a fan of the early signing period, and there's a lot of people that come down on his side of things. I haven't heard as many people against it. Urban Meyer was one that was against it. He's a guy that can go in there and flip a guy at the last minute. These bigger schools like Alabama and Ohio State, but Clemson's in that category when it comes to recruiting. But the Tigers, I'll say this about how they recruit, and it's been well documented how Clemson, if you commit to the Tigers, they don't want you to take any other visits. If you're going to take other visits, they don't consider you committed, and they can pull your scholarship. They try to look at it going both ways. When I say pull your scholarship, pull the offer. And some people have questioned that mentality, and others haven't, but they really seem to keep guys in place. They don't have a lot of the shenanigans. Some guys go down to the wire, whereas Ohio State, they lose a guy, they'll go on signing day and flip a guy that you didn't even know Ohio State was going after, and they can flip them. That's what Urban Meyer likes to do, and he's not a fan of the early signing period. So two sides of it. I think something's going to happen eventually because it just seems a little out of control the way it's been going. More sports talk on the other side. Don't go away. Insects, diseases, and more can be moved hundreds of miles in firewood and threaten our forests, favorite campsites, neighborhoods, and state and national parks. Help protect the trees you love by purchasing firewood at or near where you burn it. For more information, visit don'tmovefirewood.org. 800-956-7266. We had some people holding during the break. They dropped off. The lines are wide open now. We can't get back to your phone calls. If you want to chime in, USC fans, do you play Jake Bentley next week? A lot of rumbling out there that he's going to be the guy. I don't know if I would do that, but he's your shiny new toy, and the Gamecocks need a spark on offense. I think they need more than just a change at that spark, but maybe the experience is the big issue. They want to get some experience, and they want to show what they have coming up. And the future is now. I thought it was a pretty good point that Will Merritt made in the first hour that, Will Muschamp's a guy, he's not thinking about next year. He's thinking about the next game. And you got to play your best guy. And I said the same thing when Perry Orr started against Vanderbilt. You play the guy that gives you the best chance to win that game. Now, you do hit a certain point of the year where you go, okay, we've got to think about next year and beyond when you're talking about peeling off a red shirt. But maybe that's what they feel like they need to do right now. They have some major struggles on that offense. And I think the biggest part of it was the fact that they've had inexperienced guys playing. They've had injuries to some key players like Deebo Samuel. And you saw on Sunday what kind of player he can be when he's healthy. Brian Edwards was dinged up. Neither Edwards or Samuel played against Texas A&M. Samuel didn't play against Kentucky. That hurts you, not having those weapons out there. And that game for McElwain, he didn't have those guys against Texas A&M either. But neither did Orth when he came in against Texas A&M and played pretty well. Orth is the better passer between McElwain and Orth. You got to go with Orth. Bentley is unproven, untested, but certainly unquestionable talent. And he's got to go out there and play eventually, and maybe that's now. I just don't know about it. And it's hard to say when you're not watching these guys practice every day. The coaches are watching them practice every day, so they know, okay, he's ready to play. I see a freshman, and I always cringe. If this was a summer, I'd cringe. I was cringing when people were saying Brandon McElwain should start against Vanderbilt. I think people now that were saying that in July are going, oh, I'm glad he didn't start and play that whole game. He came out there and he played like a freshman when he got in the game. Had a turnover there in the red zone. That's what happens with freshmen. He's played like a freshman to me. I don't think I'm giving up on him. I think he's got a chance to be pretty good. But is he better than Jake Bentley long term? Neither. I know Bentley is a more defined, true, prototypical quarterback. He has the height, the body type that looks like your typical quarterback, whereas Brandon McElwain is a little bit smaller. That's okay. Drew Brees is small. It's turned out okay for Drew Brees. Russell Wilson's small. He's done okay for himself. Those are pretty big exceptions. I'm not saying McElwain's that guy, but McElwain was a great quarterback in Pennsylvania, but it's a lot different when you're playing in the South. And I've heard coaches say, high-level coaches say, that some of those quarterbacks from the Northeast that are big-time recruits, when they come down south, you always wonder, okay, well, they haven't been playing against the same type of competition up there as the kids that are playing in Florida, in California, in Texas, in South Carolina, in Georgia. They haven't. That's just the reality of it. They don't play that level of high school football in Pennsylvania and New York and other places up there.
There's something in the boiled peanuts down here that just gets you bigger, stronger.
Sweet
faster.
tea and boiled peanuts make it a little bit of a different game. So how it all shakes out, that'll be a storyline. You're not going to get an answer. I can tell you that right now. You will not get an answer between now and the UMass game on who the starting quarterback is going to be. Will Muschamp is not going to let that cat out of the bag. Now, maybe he'll drop some hints, some clues. We did have Perry Orth out talking to the media yesterday. I've had multiple people tell me they're hearing that it is going to be Jake Bentley next Saturday. And the BigSpur.com, Tony Morrell reported that he's hearing there's a good chance that could happen. So there's definitely scuttlebutt. There's definitely smoke out there, but that does not mean it's going to necessarily happen. And maybe he doesn't start, maybe he comes in. But do you need to start him to beat UMass? No. But do you need to start him to get that experience for next season? Maybe. Clemson, NC State coming up Saturday. The Tigers a 17-point favorite. This game last year in Raleigh was a pretty tight game for a while. High scoring, but tight. They went back and forth, and then late, Clemson pulled away. That game was played on Halloween last year, and the Wolfpack are a little bit better on defense this year. I don't think they are as good on offense as they were last year. Dave Doran's trying to keep his job up there in Raleigh. Boring Dave Doran, as I like to call him, just not the most entertaining guy to do an interview with. But he was highly thought of when he came to NC State. It just hasn't happened for them in terms of winning. And I'll say this about NC State fans, whether it's baseball, basketball, or football, they have expectations that don't really suit their tradition or history. And that happens a lot of places, but they expect to win at NC State, and it just hasn't been happening. So any win for Dave Doran is important right now, and how they play against Clemson is important. I don't think many people expect NC State to go into Death Valley and beat the Tigers on homecoming. That's not going to happen. And Clemson seems to be getting better each week, and that probably scares a lot of people on their schedule. Now they have Florida State coming up. They have a bye week. If you want to sit there and try to play the trap game, well, we can play that game. We played it a bunch last year, and it didn't happen. And until Clemson shows me otherwise right now and gives me any reason to believe that they aren't focused, then I don't think Clemson's going to have any problems. And I think they're going to be able to get through the rest of their schedule unscathed. Florida State is the only toss-up, but Florida State's defense has not been impressive this year. They haven't been. They don't look like the same kind of defense that we're used to seeing at Florida State. They have beast on their defensive line, but they have been exposed. And they had a big win on Saturday night against Miami, blocked an extra point to keep it from going to overtime. But Miami moved up and down the field on them. Miami's got a good offense. They have a good offensive play caller, Mark Richt, who is 10 times the coach that Georgia has now. 10 times, Jared. Kirby Smart.
You're not sucking me into this one.
You saw Kirby Smart. I'm not. The jury is way out on Kirby Smart right now. The end of the half, letting the field goal go. I'm getting off the path here that I was talking about with Clemson. Clemson's going to be fine the rest of the season. Now back to ripping on Georgia right now, just because we can. And they beat South Carolina, but that was a 7-point game. A 7-point game. South Carolina could not stop Georgia's run, and still, with 15 minutes to play, South Carolina had the ball down 7. The Gamecocks actually had a chance to tie that game in the fourth quarter.
Well, he was just letting them play. He had that game at no ever going to be scared that Georgia was going to lose that game. And we were talking about Kirby Smart. That was the initial dig. And I just want to say, after watching the Hurricanes lose in the most Mark Richt way, once again, having the game in there.
Oh, it's his fault. The kicker that made 70 in a row got one boinked by a defensive lineman? Told the guy, hey, let the guy block it?
I'm just saying, never seen that one before with Mark Richt. Never seen that kind of loss.
Well,
so as far as Georgia go,
you beat Nicholls State by 2.
We'll get there.
Yeah. Jacob Eason. Yeah, everybody's talking about the Gamecocks quarterback controversy. Perry Orth outplayed a 5-star recruit on Saturday by a lot. He was the best quarterback on the field.
Hey, Kornblut will be the one to say, star recruiting doesn't matter.
Yeah, the rankings don't mean anything. We'll hear from Brent Venables coming up on the other side of the break. Get the Tiger defensive perspective. All right, I'm going to call an audible. We'll hold Brent Venables since we heard from Dabo Swinney earlier. Fresh stuff from today. Caught up with Brent earlier in the week. But I do want to get to a little Perry Orth because it's actually 1 year to the day. This is the 1 year anniversary to the day that Steve Spurrier walked away from the South Carolina program, never to be seen or heard from again. Actually, we know he's been seen or heard from again. He was just in the paper yesterday. But Perry Orth, one of 3 quarterbacks now repping this week. Let's hear what he has to say about the offense going forward, the improvement that he sees that maybe you don't, and what to expect over the next 6 games.
Just, they got to get ready to work the next week. He's trying to motivate us, and if he believes that all positions are open, you got to attack every day, like like you're not going to play. So.
Does Debo need to touch the ball?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, y'all saw what he did with the ball. He's a special playmaker, and we're glad to have him healthy again.
How difficult is that for you and really the offense when you've got receivers kind of just shuttling in and out every week?
As a quarterback, you don't really notice that a whole bunch. I mean, yeah, you want to have guys like Debo and Brian in, but the next guy up and you got to make your reads. It doesn't really matter on the receiver. Debo got the ball because he got open on the certain plays that were called, and he was in my read in that for that play. And so the same goes for if Terry is in or Chavis or Drake or any of the other guys. So.
How much does it help with Debo and his ability to stretch the field?
Oh, I mean, he's a big-time player, so it's fantastic. Him and Brian do a great job of stretching the field. We missed Brian on the deep post. Probably should have thrown the ball more towards the middle of the field, but, both of them are big-time players. And, like I said the other night, we're getting close, and I believe that. And, we just got to keep working, work through the bye week, get ready for UMass.
So, Perry, you do believe that there's a way to get – this just isn't what it is. I mean, you guys can improve.
Absolutely. I mean, I'd hope y'all had seen that there was improvement. I mean, there's been improvement in different areas as the season's gone along. It just hasn't come together yet. And, so I believe it's going to. Right now we're still working, still figuring things out. I mean, we have so many young guys that haven't played and that are still learning how to play. It's, it's challenging at first. But, I believe that we're going to turn it around. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, it's tough, but, you just got to believe that, that you're going to get out of it. It's like when playing baseball and you're in a slump. The only way to get out of a slump is just believe that you're going to get out of one. And that's kind of where we're in right now. We're just in a little rut right now, and we got to believe that we're capable of getting out of it, and I think we are.
Are there spots when you see what Debo and Brian kind of do once they get the ball and you're just sort of like, oh, yeah, that's kind of why they sort of rose to the top of that receiver spot?
Yeah, I mean, they're just big time players. They catch the football and make plays with it. And that's what you want in a receiver, and we're glad to have them.
It's been 1 year since Coach Spurrier stepped down. Does it feel like 1 year? Does it feel like longer than 1 year?
It's been 1 year, 1 year this week. I don't really know. I guess I haven't really thought about it. Yeah, it has been. I mean, yeah, it was pretty strange, whole situation, but no, I wouldn't say it feels like a year. It's a little longer.
How different is this
Since he left?
I mean, just between now and then.
There's some things that are done differently, but overall, I mean, it's been the same teammates for the most part, and so it hasn't really felt that much different. But yeah, there's the little things like wearing the same stuff to practice and shirts tucked in and everything like that. I mean, that would be the biggest difference, attention to detail. But for the most part, it's the same teammates, so not a whole bunch. I have no idea. They were out there today. Him and Brandon stayed out with the younger guys, and I don't think so. I'm not sure.
Does he look just being through these first 6 weeks?
He's good. He's got a lot of ability. He's still working on some things, and I'm excited for his future, down the road, and watch him play.
When you learn from that experience last year and how it can translate to right now?
I mean, you just know how tough it can be to win in this conference. And, it's 1 or 2 plays each game. And, right now we haven't made those plays. But like I said, I believe we're going to.
Perry, individually, what are you using this bye week to work on and going into the next game?
I think my balance and alignment in my throwing, the numbers, they didn't look too bad. I think there were a lot of things that I could have done differently. A little bit more accurate passing so guys can catch the ball and run instead of having to slow down to catch it. But, yeah, I think I'm just growing in the offense more. You know, it's still my first year in the system and still got to learn what Coach Roper wants from me. And, you know, but personally, just my footwork and in the pocket and being more balanced.
Perry Orth, you can get more from Orth on our website, SportsTalkSC.com. It'll be interesting to see if he's behind center or if it's back to McElwain or maybe even Jake Bentley a week from Saturday when the Gamecocks get back on the field and face UMass at Williams-Brice Stadium. A message from your local Touchstone Energy Cooperative. They know that Hurricane Matthew has disrupted many lives across South Carolina. If you're one of their valued customers who have your power knocked out because of the storm, you may want to know that their repair crews are hard at work to restore service to every one of their co-op members. Thank you for supporting the crews during the difficult time. They appreciate your patience and will have your lights back on as soon as possible. This message brought to you by your local Touchstone Energy Cooperative. We have just a couple of minutes left. By the way, I am in a very good mood tonight because the Dodgers did find a way to hold on and beat the Nationals to at least extend the series to a 5th and decisive game. How about the Cubs last night? What an amazing game for them. Are the Cubs going to win the World Series this year? Is that what's going to happen?
I always say no, just because I love the blinking and the blank dead stares that you get back from Cubs fans. No, they're not, and I confidently say that.
Well, I think most Cubs fans would agree with you if they've been a Cubs fan long enough, but it would be a little sad. I was a little sad on it because it was kind of fun watching them just suffer about the curse of the Bambino and all the different things that they blamed it on, mostly the curse of the Bambino. Bill Buckner, and they would just get so upset. And every year in April and August, they felt great, but then October would come around and their hearts would get ripped out of their chest. And it was kind of fun to watch in a perverse sporting way.
I mean, you could watch Hayward, though.
But now if the Billy Goat curse dies, then we won't have anything. Then there won't be any other than the Cleveland Browns. I guess that'll be the new thing. But the Cubs, they're the lovable losers. I don't know how I would feel about it. I got to tell you, I don't know that I would like the Cubs winning the World Series. Well, I definitely wouldn't like it if the Dodgers somehow, and I'm not feeling this. They're facing Scherzer. They threw Kershaw yesterday. They're playing in D.C., so that's not going to be easy, a decisive game in D.C. against Matt Scherzer. But if it's the Dodgers and Cubs in the NLCS, I definitely won't want the Cubs to win the World Series. But if it's the Dodgers and Nats, who do I pull for then? I'd like them to get to the World Series. You know, I just didn't like the way the Cubs treated Steve Bartman. I watched that 30 for 30, and they were just so horrible to him. They were so horrible. The same way the Red Sox fans were so horrible to Bill Buckner. I didn't like that. I didn't like the way they treated him. At least Buckner was a player that was paid to do things. Bartman was just some poor schlub. Now, if they do win the World Series, what they'll do is they'll probably have a Bartman Day at Wrigley Field, and they'll bring him back, and everybody will forgive him like they did Buckner. It would have been a lot nicer of a gesture if they would have done that like in 1994. Now, okay, we want to – now we're not curse you out every time we have a drink at a bar. But, yeah, it made me feel uncomfortable watching that 30 for 30. But we'll see. That was a great win for the Cubs. They beat the Giants last night. As a Dodger fan, I'm never sad to see the Giants lose, so I was very happy to watch the Giants and the Cardinals are the two teams that I enjoy watching lose the most. I don't dislike the Red Sox and Cubs, to be honest with you. I don't pull against them. They don't make me angry, but I just liked watching their fans' reaction when they lost. We do have a Cubs fan. Newsman Matt is a Cubs fan in our office, so I could watch him be miserable, which would be fun. That's going to do it tonight. We're out of time. Time flies when you're having fun. Phil Kornblut, he'll be back tomorrow. So we'll have most of the crew back together, and we'll have the coach and the quarterback. Plenty more to talk about. Any of the latest scuttlebutt that we dig up for you. You have Sports Talk. Same time, same place here on South Carolina Radio Network. Jared, appreciate it as always. Thanks to all of you. We'll talk to you tomorrow night.